here, and I'm sure we'll get a flood of other people coming in a little bit later. This is the Real Secrets of Money educational series. The purpose of this is to serve, educate, and empower all of you with very valuable knowledge about finances. We've talked about things from having lawyers on with wills and trusts, some credit stuff, and I am very excited to go over designing retirement with purpose, right? We're going to talk really focus on retirement income, some of the risks that you may or may not be thinking of along the way. And we'll have some polls to make this interactive. So feel free to chime in with those, ask questions in the chat. I like hearing from those and asking them if you have some different ideas that come up, and we'll just truck along the way there. So let's get this started. I'm Jim Rossner. I actually work with out of Shirley Liu's office. We're all part of the Unique Growth First Financial Security team. And again, we're all part of this Real Secrets of Money educational series. So I'm looking forward to this. I've been in the financial field for over a decade now. I've been on 3 different financial planning teams before I really landed in helping and serving where I am now with my independent brokerage. And I absolutely love it. I love working with Shirley. I love the clients I have, and I love focusing and helping getting people towards retirement. So the first poll we have here is, what's most important? Guaranteed income I can't outlive, protecting against inflation and raising costs, C, avoiding big losses from market downturns, or D, keeping control and flexibility in my plan. So we have the poll up here. Give a second or two for people to get some answers in. Okay, I see we have some guaranteed income that we can't outlive. Yeah, I know that's probably one of the biggest, that right, guaranteed income in this day and age where companies don't offer pensions. That's a lot of people are focused on that. Avoiding big losses from downside risks. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, these are great. And we're certainly going to address and talk about a lot of these different risks, and even some strategies and ideas on how to avoid them. But to even look at that, so let's move forward here, where there are 4 major key risks that you need to be aware of in retirement, and we're going to talk about all of them while we're here today. So there's longevity, inflation, distributions, and medical. And what you're going to find is each of these risks play in effect to each other, right? Your longevity risk has a play with the medical, and inflation has a play with the longevity, right? And being able to look at all of these is really going to help you put a plan together for everything that we're doing here. Okay, so the fact is, at age 60, an American man can expect to reach 82 and a woman at 85. So what does that mean, right? We're living a long time. It was funny. I was researching a little bit earlier that, when Social Security started, the original retirement age was 65 and life expectancy was 61 years old. So what is it where now we need to consider how many years we need to be able to pull money out from our accounts and not risk running out of money? Because that's even a worse situation of, you just start pulling money and you enjoyed your retirement years maybe a little bit too much, and now you're 83, 85, and your accounts are done. They're drained. What does that look like, right? What are things that we can do to avoid that? Right? It's kind of that double-edged sword where we all want to live a long and healthy life, but what happens when that we outlive our savings? Just kind of looking at some of the stats behind this, right? A couple that are both age 65, 50% have a chance to living till 93, and 25% have a chance of living in 97. Right? That's well beyond the average. And right, that's why they call it averages, because some unfortunately die before, but some we're living a lot longer. So again, what are you doing? What can we do to help make sure you don't outlive your money? Because that is a very real risk, and something that we're seeing, especially as medical advances are progressing. People are getting treatment, they're living longer because they're healthier and taking care of themselves. But that has an impact on our finances and retirement savings, right? Because without the careful planning, you're just going to risk running out of money and depleting all of your funds. And it just puts you in a tough position, right? Where you have to move back in with your kids or your grandkids, or you need more government assistance. And again, it's just a position that with proper planning, you don't need to be in. Now, inflation. You know, I dislike inflation, but I enjoy talking about it because it's I think one of the silent killer, so to speak, when planning, investing, and looking in the future, right? You know, this famous quote, inflation is when you pay $15 for the $10 haircut that you used to get for $5 when you had hair. Um, you know, the real reality behind inflation risk, you know, I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of the rule of 72. Um, but I really like using this where you could say, okay, well, you divide whatever percentage rate by 72, and then tells you how many years it takes for your money to double. So if I did 72 divided by 3.6%, that means in 20 years, my money would double. You can use that same math, but for inflation, right? The average for inflation is about 3.6%. Now, right, we're in this kind of uniquely high in, you know, inflationary environment, unfortunately, right, where it is closer to 7, maybe 11, and it's kind of ticking down. But on average, it's 3.6. So that means every 20 years, your money needs to double to have the same purchasing power. Um, right, you know, and just to give some more real life examples of that, right, not just, you know, the math of 72, simple things. A Big Mac cost $1.05 in 1980. Now it's about 5.69. Cars, 1980 was about 6,500. Now they're 36,000. You know, and I've been hearing a lot of other things too, how cars really, it's becoming challenged to make an affordable car and have it there. And it's just this trend upward and upward. And you know, you can kind of see again the value of $100 and the buying power that it's decreased for. So if you're living your life and you have $100,000 of income during your working years and you're comfortable for that, and you want to plan for that in retirement, which is 20 years out, okay, well, if I enjoy $100,000 today, I shouldn't plan to have $100,000 20 years from now. I got to account for having $200,000 20 years from now. What does that math look like, right? So again, it's this inflation risk that is very real that a lot of people just overlook, and live in today's dollars and don't think and incorporate this for the future, because inflation is always a thing. Um, Again, as you can see, since the 70s, you know, the chart of what that looks like. And you know, the reality is, because a lot of people that we find are sitting on fixed income retirees, that they really struggle to keep their standard of living because they're having that fixed income and that's all they're living off of. But as we just saw, the costs just keep growing and inflating, and it just, again, you finally, you essentially run into that risk of before, of running out of money, of not being able to afford just the basic needs. So, you know, as I like this quote: as their retirement nears, investors need to be aware of their threat, known as the sequence of returns risk, right? So now we're going to kind of pivot to that risk of things. So we looked at longevity, we looked at inflation, right? How, you know, as we live longer, the inflation's going to grow with it, right? So you can kind of see how these are tying together. But now we're going to look at the sequence of returns risk, right? Where there's the distribution risk. So the order of investment returns on your retirement accounts significantly impact what you're able to do. And then the sequence of when you start pulling the money out, what does the returns look like? And I'll just kind of visualize this for you. I know for me, you know, I'm a numbers guy. I like to kind of see what these words mean. So I like using this as an example. So these are two very similar portfolios. Actually, they are similar portfolios. They're the same balance. And as you can see, that they have the same rate of returns. But you're probably wondering, well, why does scenario A run out of money by 2023, but scenario B runs out of money by 2013, especially if it's the same returns? The only difference is, right, so they both start off with 500,000 and we're both withdrawing $30,000 as an annual income. But since this person started 2 years before and they just got lucky, right? They started pulling money and taking $30,000 out when there were 2 positive years in the market. And then the next three, from 2000 to 2002, they were all down and it ate away. But for person B, they didn't have those 2 years where the market was up. So they're got the short end of the stick where they just started pulling $30,000 out when it was down 10, when it was down 13, when it was down 23. And And the reality of this is that you don't know when you retire or when it comes time to accessing your money, what scenario you're going to be in. Are you going to be in a 1998, 99 where things are looking good and you don't have to worry? Or are you going to be retiring around the 2000s where things aren't going to be looking so hot? Right. So that really is the sequence of returns risk that we're helping people out. And you can see again the impact it has on a portfolio. It just significantly eats away at it, especially when you're taking that income out during those negative years because you're selling low, right? You're selling your investments low. Investing 101 is buy low, sell high, right? So you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure, quite frankly, if you don't have a plan around the sequence of returns risk. Um, right, the timing matters, and I don't care what if you're talking to the CEO of J.P. Morgan, Jamie something, or the smartest, oldest wealth manager that's been in the business. Nobody knows what next year's returns are going to look like. No one has this crystal ball. You can be pretty good at it and kind of get a lot of indicators, but at the end of the day, no one's really going to know. So again, having a plan around the sequence of returns risk and the timing of the market is really going to matter. And one of the things I love doing for my clients is I use this language of putting them in a position of power where no matter what's going on with the market, that they'll be able to retire and do what they want to do on time. So now let's move on to this piece. We're going to have another poll here. Current understanding of healthcare costs. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Are you A, I'm just starting to learn about it, right? Understand what the healthcare costs look like, maybe family that's going through it or just starting to look and plan for it. B, I know the basics, but need more guidance. C, I've done some planning, but I'm unsure if it's enough. Or D, I feel confident and want to fine tune. So please feel free to put those answers in, what you're thinking. So, all right, we have a couple just starting to learn about it, done some planning, but unsure. Yeah, that sounds about right. Kind of the usual mix there. I know the basics, but need more guidance. Yep. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's where this healthcare, health insurance space, it is always evolving. It's different. It changes. So let's just take a look at where we're at right now. So the average retiree at age 65 will need approximately $165,000 to cover healthcare expenses during retirement. So that's probably a big number. Now think of it. What if you're going to retire in 20 years and we put on our inflation risk hat where this is going to double, that over 300,000 approximately that we'll need in healthcare expense. That's insane. That's a lot of money. And that's kind of the reality of it, right? That the medical risk, it rises as people age. We're living longer. Again, bringing in that long, right? You see how all of this kind of plays into each other. Longevity risk ties to this medical risk of the premiums being expensive, of the cost of living needed there. Long-term care. I don't know if you've known anyone that's been in it. Someone in my family's just gone through needing someone with them 24/7, and it costs $550 a day to have someone with them 24/7. So, it's one of the just part of the 25% here of retirees that will require significant long-term care, with nursing home costs exceeding $255,000 annually by 2050. I mean, if you do the math too, the $550 a day right now for a whole year, that's 200,000. So by 2050, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more. These are very conservative numbers here, right? 22 will expense minimal and 38% will have a moderate need. So wherever that lands, how much is that going to cost? How are we preparing and looking at that, right? The average nursing home cost is 108,000 for a private room, and again, taking off this inflation of the 3%, it's just looking like it's trending up. So again, this medical risk is, I'm not going to say is the most important or the biggest one, right? Because they're all pretty big, but I think this is really in your face in regards to the cost. And right, I guess you could say this incorporates the inflation risk with it too, right? The medical risk is a victim of the inflation risk that inflates with everything, but it definitely is one of the bigger ones that people struggle with, right? And why they end up running out of money. What happens if you get that bill for 255,000? Where do you pay that? Do you just drain your entire retirement accounts and now you have nothing? Do you just sell the house that you've been living in and need to liquidate and do a fire sale to pay? Right. And honestly, a lot of these long-term care places, they have it down to a science where they essentially say, write over all your assets, send that over to us. And we'll just make sure we don't kick you out on the streets. And I guess it kind of works, it helps. But again, there are things you can do to help, right? So it doesn't erode away all of the savings and assets that you've built throughout your life. So, right, we've gone over longevity risk, the inflation risk, distributions risk, and the medical risk. And you're kind of getting a sense of how all four of these play into each other, how one affects the other. So where does that lead us? Right? So stop to think. If you stopped working today, how confident are you that your income would cover your needs for the next 25 years? Are you either A, very confident and you have a solid plan, you've looked at all these and you feel that everything's taken care of? Are you kind of more B, somewhat confident? You might have some gaps, but you have a pretty solid figure going forward. Not confident at all, or I haven't even thought that far ahead because maybe you're young. I see we have some young people in on here, so you're not even thinking about retirement at all. So feel free to answer some of these next couple seconds. We have somewhat confidence. Some people that haven't thought that far ahead, and, good for you. That's why we're here thinking of these things, right? The younger we are to plan and save for this, the easier it is to tackle all of these things and account for all of these risks. More somewhat confidence, not confident. Okay, cool, awesome. Well, I appreciate that feedback there. So now what? Right, we've discussed the risk and all the things that can go wrong during or before retirement. So how do we manage these? Right, what are things that we can do to manage these risks? Right, and there really is a lot we can do through strategic income planning and financial tools beyond the 4% rule and pray. If you don't know what the 4% rule is, open your phone, not on your laptop because you're watching and trucking along here, but just Google safe retirement withdrawal rate. The 4% rule is essentially the standard that traditional wealth managers, retirement planners would say of like, okay, you save this amount in your 401k, pull out 4%, and there's only, probably a 90% chance you run out of money. And pray that you've just timed it properly with with your sequence of return risk that you do it on a good year. That's what most are, but it's not just that. All right. So, there's two pretty vital questions like what do I need my retirement income to do? And what do I want my retirement income to do? Right. I need housing, healthcare, utilities, right? What do I want? I want to travel, spend time with family, get a vacation home. And a lot of people, a lot of families, I find struggle with ironing out exactly the difference between these two. So there are about four steps, that you could take starting on. Discover your expenses, provide for essential expenses, fund voluntary expenses, review and adjust. Right? It's never just a set it and forget it. You're always reviewing all these things. So discover what your expenses are. Like what are your basic needs, right? Housing, food, healthcare. What is it that I need on a monthly basis, no matter hell or high water, that I need this place, a roof over my head. I need food in my belly. What does that look like? Right? Because essentially expenses are often fixed and discretionary spending can be a little bit more flexible depending on your savings. So start visualizing that and have, sit down and go over it. Some people might not have any idea what that looks like because money just goes out their account and they don't know what it is on a monthly basis. But as you're approaching retirement, you really got to get a grip on what these numbers are and what that looks like. Because again, that's going to help you with the planning, mitigating against all these risks that we can run into. Uh, there's the essential expenses, right? Medicine, housing, utilities, food, clothing, and then the voluntary expenses, right? Kind of the more fun stuff, which I find a lot of people focus on for retirement because rightfully so. You worked hard all your life. You want to enjoy yourself. You want to dine out. You want to go to the trip to Europe. You want to go and start golfing and boating and all these fun different activities, or you want to go and spoil your grandkids that are starting to pop up now from all the kids, from all your kids having babies and stuff like that. So this is, kind of truly the enjoyable part of retirement. But again, it's also being able to just categorize what's essential versus the voluntary expenses that we account for. And again, hopefully, if you're working with a fiduciary, you're reviewing and adjusting every year because, as we kind of alluded to, like life is always changing, right? Unfortunately, life isn't just a straight line of, things are going well, it's tough and it's up. It's, things are going great, and then a crazy situation happens, flat car accident, broken leg, but then you recover and then grandbabies are here and life's feeling great, and it's just this roller coaster ride, where you always need to check in at least annually, if not semi-annually, if not even sooner if you want to, based on some of the moving parts you have going on. Rebalance your portfolio, update your beneficiaries, make sure everything is accurate, and just match your income to your needs, right? Before you act on any retirement plan, it's important to know what your income options are, right? Each type of income plays a different role. The main aspect here is understanding which sources are most dependable and how to work with all of them together. So here's just a list of essentially most, if not all, of the sources of retirement income. You have your Social Security, right? You've paid into that for most of your life, right? If you're younger here, I see some younger folks on, the question of if it'll even be funded or what that even looks like by the time we're there. But it provides a baseline for income as we're planning for retirement. There's pensions. If you're one of the lucky few that's worked for the government, state, federal, they might offer you some sort of pension. If not, maybe you just got offered a retirement account, right? So like an IRA, a 401k, 403b, 457, something similar to that, where right, you got to save and grow your money in the market. There's also annuities, offers a predictable lifetime income stream, right? It essentially, you're able to take retirement accounts and turn them into pensions, or even put them in a safer environment, depending the type of annuity you have. There really are dozens of different ones out there beyond just the lifetime income stream, right? There's brokerage accounts, flexible savings for additional growth, right? Where you're just having someone manage your money, and it's flexible to use. There's the savings and CDs. A lot of people love CDs. I was working with one of my clients where they had probably 80% of their savings in a CD, because that's just what they knew. It was a little bit better than their savings. And again, it's really low risk, and easily accessible funds. Or maybe you're a real estate person, right? Where there's real estate, rental income, if you're renting it out or have different properties you're flipping, where right, rental income tends to typically be stable. If you have a good tenant and a good location, it should be stable. That's not always the case. It still is a market, the real estate market, and but again, it's a great way to provide supplemental income or part-time employment. Maybe you want to do something because you can't just sit on the couch and watch Oprah or Maury for 8 hours a day, and you're driving yourself crazy. Where maybe you want to go do something, right? Maybe it is being, you're still active, and you can be a lifeguard part time, or just doing something at the local farm and working there and getting paid and just enjoy moving around and being outside. So we always look to diversify your income sources, your assets, to help provide stability and flexibility based on what your specific retirement goals and strategies are there. So, identify sources of income. What does that look like? Lifetime sources, that could be Social Security, pensions, annuities, and really we like to match those with the essential expenses. Where, hey, if I have a mortgage and food and I'm spending, $4,000 a month, I'm going to probably use some of these tools to make sure that my essentials are being met and covered there. While, also covering the financial gap. So if your essential expenses are covered by lifetime income sources, that's great. But a lot of times people might have a shortfall where, hey, well, I have my Social Security, my pension, it's going to get me 3,500, but I need 4,500. So how do we cover the gap and ensure financial security, right? And again, that's where incorporating a whole bunch of different strategies, option, right? Looking at your, have a review, talk with a fiduciary, find out, take a review of looking at everything you have and see if there's a way you can help bridge the gap. This was a great quote by Tom Hegna. He's a real, he's really great when it comes to finances and retirement planning. Right, I cannot stress enough the importance of guaranteed lifetime income to your happiness in retirement. Knowing that you will have an income regardless of what happens in the market is going to make you less stressed. right? I always say, so when you retire, you don't have to turn on MSNBC Money, Squawk Box, or write any of these things and say, hey, well, can I go on my trip to Italy this year? Because how's the market doing? Or am I right? Where that's not the case. And that guarantee really helps provide that peace of mind that so many people look for. So right, a lot of times you can utilize annuities to close the gap, right? Take your 401k IRA and see what that would look like if you used an annuity that would create some lifetime income. Again, it provides reliable income that lasts as long as you do. It shields from expenses and market volatility, and it offers a lot of great benefits to people that are really focused on looking at their retirement picture. So work with a fiduciary, a financial professional to find the right annuity product for your situation because there are so many, right? So definitely ask questions, know the pros and cons of each, why you should choose one versus the other, so you can make a truly informed decision that would be best for you and your family. A lot of the benefits for annuities are that consistent income, market protection, and inflation resiliency. Annuities really ensure your essential expenses are always covered, right? So you can worry about paying for the grandkids, car when he's 16 years old, but you'll know that your house is taken care of, right? You can stress about those fun things and maybe only help out, mom and dad with half of the car payment. You can't do full, but that's different than being able to only pay half the mortgage, right? So again, that's where these annuities can come in to really help solve for it. Um, and that's where what about the fun, kind of alluding to that point. So once your essential expenses are covered, key funding sources for these fun things are what you have in your savings, what you have in your liquid assets, what you have for retirement accounts like your IRAs and 401ks, where, okay, hey, I don't need to necessarily pull from these every year because my basic needs are set. And, have a review. Maybe it's a year where the market's up 23%, where I was looking at a statement earlier where, he earned about 38% rate of return. Hey, well, if you earn 38%, let's take 20% of that and go use that to fund these fun adventures, right? And things that you can do come retirement time. So again, I can't emphasize enough, review your plan regularly, chat with your financial professional or all of them, right? Sometimes you might have a CPA, you might have a wealth manager, you might have an annuity insurance person. Chat with all of them. Bring them all in on a meeting to have a conversation together so everyone knows what's going on to help you out. Have your expenses changed? Does your portfolio need to rebalance? Do we need to update beneficiaries, right? Maybe your son or daughter doesn't need to be 100% now, but the grandkids are going to get a percent too because you're right there, they're there, and grandparents love their grandbabies. I would say more so than their kids, but there's a special place for them. All right, so just some final thoughts to leave you with here. Key takeaways: start with a clear understanding of your essential and discretionary expenses. Match reliable income sources to cover those essential expenses, and then you can use investments and savings to fund and help with those discretionary goals. So really what your next steps would be is work with a fiduciary, a financial professional, to create a plan that's really tailored to your needs, your timeline, your risk tolerance, and plan to always have regularly review and adjust your plan to stay on track with whatever's going on in life. So just to reiterate the closing thoughts, retirement planning is about more than just numbers. It's about creating the financial freedom to enjoy the life that you've worked your entire life building and saving and putting time into a company so hard to build. So you deserve it. People, I really do think, and that's probably why I do what I do, to give that peace of mind and happiness and joy for enjoying the fruits of your labor throughout your entire working career. So, with so many options available, everyone can find the right path. Just contact who invited you today to learn more. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm Jim Rossner. I work out of Shirley Lou's office. I'll share my contact information. If you just randomly found this and no one invited you, but again, if someone invited you, reach back out to them. Let them know what you thought about today. Ask maybe them to have a review together and learn more, right? Learn more about some of the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Learn about what these numbers would look like for you to really help yourself out there. So with that, again, we have tons of different citations. We can share this and share all these links for where we got these numbers from. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn this, to carve out a half hour during your busy evening to learn about some of these strategies, some of these risks. Right, this is what we're doing and talking about all day, and obviously all evening too, to help people because it really is important, and it really is valuable. So. With that being said, I'll be on for the next minute or two. If anyone wants to ask any questions or if we have questions in the chat, I am happy to answer those. If not, I hope you have a wonderful life, wonderful night, not a wonderful life. Have a wonderful night. Stay tuned to our next series in the Real Secrets of Money Tour. If you signed up for this one, you'll get some info on the next one because each time we're going over different topics, different sections. So look forward to seeing you there. And again, I'll hang out for the next couple of minutes. But again, have a wonderful night if you're tuning out now. Thanks.